Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 7 of Podshots. This week, my good friend itzTIGÞR Brown joins us as a guest to talk about what it's like being a DJ in this day and age, the kind of work he's been doing, what he's released, what the music industry is like, and we also dive into some side topics such as Black Lives Matter. So definitely check out his work. You can find him under itzTIGÞR on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music. We'll put some links in the description below as well. So what did we drink this week? Well, we decided to drink beer. In particular, we decided to drink Corona. And no, we're not talking about COVID-19. We're talking about that lovely Mexican beer that you pop a lime into and drink on a beach, except we weren't on a beach. Anyways, the same vibe applies anyway, so kick back, relax, have a drink, and enjoy Season 2, Episode 7 of Podshots. Yeah, that steak can get hard and chewy sometimes, but that does sound really good.
There was this show, Man vs. Food, and I remember watching many episodes of that, man. And he was going around the whole US to all of these kind of mom and pop kind of restaurants and doing all the challenges that they have, you know, where they have like the leaderboard on the wall, and it's something ridiculous you would never even imagine being able to accomplish, but people have actually done it. We have to eat like, I don't know, 100 wings and it progressively gets hotter or something like that. And the fucker used to complete most of them, man. I mean, he was really big at the end of that show. Yeah.
I can only imagine. That sounds like such a great show, though.
Yeah.
Just to travel around the world, like just travel around the States, eating good food.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's a lot of shows like that, though, which shows how popular people just want to tune in and watch someone eat something. I mean, you wouldn't think that, but it's true. They do. It's like kind of like ASMR, right? Where I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm just putting it out there right now.
Something I still don't understand.
It's okay, Glenda. It's okay if you are.
Stroking my hair into the microphone. It's like, oh yeah, I like that. You sound like you're 37. Yeah, no, that's the age of my, that's how old I am. How did you tell from just stroking my hair? It's brittle.
There's so many good food shows out there. One of the best ones that I like, at least, is the Gordon Ramsay one, where he goes around the world. I forgot what it's called, but he has it on YouTube too. And he'll just go to different places in the world and he'll make their local dish. Learn how to make it, and then he'll cook it at the end. And super
good. Call them like all the names under the sun.
Yeah. I remember he went to like Iceland or something, or like he went to like Greenland and caught puffins and cooked puffins.
No, that's just wrong.
I know. But it was priceless seeing him stand off the edge of a cliff with a giant net trying to catch a puffin.
Ramsay.
It was funny as hell. There was one where he like
that dude when he's younger. He looks exactly the same, but just
that dude doesn't age
in a different body. His face is the same, man. It's really crazy.
Just like you, he's not going to age. He's going to look beautiful even at 37.
Oh man, it's the ring light. Trust me, man. My eye bags are getting really bad now. Yours are coming out a bit. You're working on them. I can see.
Nah, don't insult me like that. Don't do that.
Those ring lights are impressive, though, dude. Those ring lights get rid of everything.
When you're in Medellin. When in Medellin.
I need to get one. I need to get one of those ring lights. It'd fix my lighting in my apartment. Especially when I do
studios. They're pretty cool. I won't be bringing this with me to Medellin though. We'll just get like a huge one or something.
Well, I bought 2 of them on accident for my ex back in March, and she has both of them. And I don't think I'm going to get the other one back anytime soon. So I might need to order a third. Good news is they were cheap.
It's not bad.
I'll order it so that you don't have to lose it to another girl. She'll try to take it. I'll be like, hey, that's mine. She'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, she's not talking to me, so I don't think I'm going to get that one back anytime soon, unfortunately.
So, do you have a girlfriend, itzTIGR? Do you have any women problems right now?
I do not have any women problems right now. Just started talking to somebody, and she's pretty great, so it's going well right now. But yeah, no problems. It's been nice. I've been laying low for a minute, so
you're in the top 1%.
Finally getting back into it. Things aren't going terribly yet.
Yeah, man. The quarantine has been a really tough time for single people everywhere. I mean, you had to sneak out to get some. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't,
and that's dangerous.
Easy. Although you could also argue it wasn't easy for couples because a lot of people broke up and divorced.
That's true, also.
Yeah, man. I don't know what
people stuck spending time with each other, too much time with each other.
Yeah. And there's the added stress of finances and things like that and kids. Oh my God, I couldn't even imagine having to spend, not that I don't like kids, but it just adds to the stress. So I'm not surprised there was like an elevated, statistical occurrence of domestic violence. I saw a police car the other day outside someone's home. I had just seen them having dinner, and I'm assuming, by the way, but I'd just seen them having dinner as a family the night before, and it's the middle of the day. There's a cop car outside their home, and I'm like, why? Why? It must be something domestic, man. It's got to be.
Yeah,
it's sad.
It's a crazy time we're living in.
Crazy time. It's been difficult for a lot of people to work too. Luckily for all three of us, we can kind of work on whatever we're doing in some fashion remotely. Like at least I've been able to, Clemens and I, we've been able to get our podcast done remotely and be able to be flexible and stuff. But
that's what's up. I was gonna say for us, it's been a blessing for sure. Because we've got the studio in the basement. And
you got it in the basement?
Yeah, so we've got everything set up in the basement and everything we need. I'm actually living. So when I moved back to Atlanta, I met these 5 guys who all make music together. And I just, for about a year, I was probably spending half the week sleeping on the couch in the basement. So once one of the guys moved out with his girlfriend, they were kind of like, "You want to move in?" I was like, "Yeah, that's not even a question." So we've been here working, and then with studios closing around the city, some of our close friends have been able to come through, and actually a way for us to make money as well, pay what they'd be paying to go to a studio and come here, record, and they're actually liking what we're doing more. So things are going well over here.
That's good. That's good.
So those are the guys that helped. Were they also on that track that you shared with us?
Yeah. So projects to mansions. That's them. Yeah, that's them. On that track in particular, Big and I produced it. Big is their main producer. Alex Steele, he's a beast when it comes to music, and him and I produced that together. Actually, probably the first month I met them 2 years ago. So like that track is 2 years old in terms of like a rough edit that we had done and finally got it out this past summer in the last few weeks. And the vocals are Dorsey, and he's part of the group, lives in the house too.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah.
I really like the video to that song too. I saw it on your Instagram. I was like, oh, I gotta check this out. So I started playing it. I saw the video and everything. I'm like, this is pretty cool. And I had people walking by, and everyone here is Colombian, obviously, and they don't speak English. So we got this like American like dubstep track blasting out of this apartment 503, and then Colombians walking down the hall trying to figure out what this American music is, and like,
what's going on,
like okay, trying to figure out what's happening in the other apartment. I'm like the only person that speaks English here, so it's funny.
Yeah. Trying to solve that way past. No, it's not working. The movements don't match. No, but that sounds like a success story, bro. Like you're stuck in a house, literally stuck in a house with like people who are essential to taking things.
Bunch of artists. Yeah, exactly. And I was gonna say that's even cooler. You mentioned the video because Seven, who's another rapper in their group, he actually made the video. Like he put together the video, edited that and everything. And then they just put out a music video that Big actually recorded when they took a trip down to Florida. So like they're actually self-sustaining and doing everything on their own. So I'm really just soaking it up and learning as much as I can in the house.
And you guys have been working on other stuff in quarantine or what?
Yeah. So they actually reached a point where they're going to be releasing a song every single week for the rest of the year. And they've got that kind of ball rolling already. I was able to finish my whole year goal musically already. Like my goal at the beginning of the year was to have 5 original tracks in my name ready to go by the end of the year. I wasn't even planning on releasing anything, but I've got one out. I've got a small EP out with not out, but I got a small EP kind of almost finished with a rapper who goes by Star God. He actually just got off tour with DMX recently and is eventually, I guess when lockdown ends, is planning on going on tour with him again. Nice. So that's pretty cool. And then I got another track with a friend of mine I produced. I'm actually waiting on my cousin who... if I could describe him, his name's Julian Soto. His voice is like a combination of John Mayer and John Legend combined, and I got something with him where he's just got to come down to Atlanta and record his vocals on it. So that's something I'm excited about.
That is so cool, man. Yeah, it sounds like you were in the right place at the right time, and everything fall into place.
Exactly.
How did you get started on that track to being where you are now?
Oh, it's a great story. I was about to say, well, I mean, Brandon knows because of school. Like coming out of high school, going to college, it was all football. Football in school were really the only things. High school, it was one of those, like I had just kind of left everything behind to focus on football. I also played lacrosse, but I played lacrosse because that was the only other sport where you could throw pads on me and I could go hit someone. So that for me was just adding practice for football. So for me, it was all football, but I'd always been into music. A couple of my friends late in high school had gotten into DJing, and I thought that was cool. I'll never forget my friends had introduced me to EDM in high school. So I was in high school, I'm listening to Skrillex and Swedish House Mafia and some older legends in the game. And once I got to college, my roommate freshman year, Kevin Wilson, was from Brazil and happened to DJ. He was just a DJ, and by the end of that first semester, he just kind of taught me what to do, and from there I took it and ran with it. It took me about a year to decide I wanted to make music myself. Spent a while learning and teaching myself all throughout school, and just picking up DJing as school was kind of developing, just kind of picking up as many gigs throughout campus in the area as I could. That's kind of just how it happened. Once I got back home, it was a matter of establishing a network here, because realistically I had never done any music here until I actually met the guys I'm living with now. So met them, got in touch with them, did my first show here, and from there it's just been working.
Nice. Yeah, I saw you doing a lot of music in college too. I saw you at some parties, DJing a few times.
Yeah. I was definitely trying to pop into as many of those as I could.
Yeah.
That was a good time though. I miss the college parties. I'm not gonna lie. There were some good ones. And I was gonna say the camp over there at Claremont was a little different. So
it was
just a good experience.
I mean, West Coast, Best Coast, man, the parties just hit completely different in my opinion.
Yeah.
But no, that's an awesome, backstory with that, and how you kind of got to where you are now with, making your music and everything. So what is I know you got some stuff that you're working on, but what's the horizon look like for you with this? Do you have goals set for yourself for the rest of 2020, other than like the work you've got, or are you working on things, or?
So, I mean, the rest of 2020, it really is just a matter of finishing up those 5 tracks for me, getting those right, and then building up just a remainder of a catalog, just stuff that I've got on hand, ready to go. Because at this point, just being around the guys I'm around and the pace they're going at with music, as well as just having all of those other people who are coming in and out of the house now to record, just having beats on hand is really just something I need, because most of the stuff I've got now has just come from me having half a track, just an idea, and then someone popping by the house, someone just taking a second or two to listen to what I've got idea-wise, and then us chopping it up a little bit, and then from there actually being able to push something out. I was gonna say that the biggest thing, especially making sort of EDM music for me, is not finishing a track and then trying to get it as quickly as possible to someone who wants to like see it finished in some way. Because the thing is, like, I found myself doing way too much vocally. Like I'd have finished a track, but it would have been way too full, and like, you want to hand it to a rapper or a vocalist or anybody, if you hand them something that's like finished and full, they're going to be sitting there listening to it like, I don't know where I'm supposed to fit in here. So like, it's really nice having lived with these guys. Like, I'm realizing you just got to have like a bare minimum, like the vocalist, the person, whoever is going to help you finish that track. Like, they're just as much of an instrument as anything else. And like, they're one of those fundamental instruments. So realistically, you can't build up your track until you've already got those fundamental ones set in place. So you give them a real stripped down basic song, let them do what they're going to do to it. And then
so what does that mean? Like a stripped down basic song? Does that just mean like it's missing some like
so like
tracks?
Like there are some levels to it where like I'll basically have like, I'll have the main idea of the song. So like those main instruments that are gonna really run the track, and like the drums, and so like really those main sounds that run the track, the drums, and some slight undertone effects, and that's about it. From there, then I let someone's voice or rap or whatever they're gonna do take it from there, and then I'll come back in and actually put in everything else to finish it.
So it's like an iterative process where you don't want to influence the next person too much. Exactly. And then you kind of come back and you're like, oh, I see where you're going with this. Okay. And
exactly.
Ah, nice.
That's exactly it. Because I mean, the other thing is you end up taking it too far one way, handing it to somebody, and then they start taking it in another direction, and you're like, okay, well, that's not what I wanted, but
welcome to Hollywood.
We're here now. So I was just like, I'm going to keep it to a minimum space, and then, wherever it goes from there, it goes. And that for me is probably the coolest.
Keep it raw and deliver to them so they can just, be an artist, create with what you got. Makes sense.
And it's kind of crazy because some of my favorite things have come from just stuff I was not expecting at all. Mm-hmm. So, it's always cool when you pop something over to somebody, they send it back to you and they're like, oh, this is fire. I didn't see this coming, but let's run with this though.
I listened to your track and I was genuinely, because the way that Brandon introduced you to me before the show, like a few days ago, was like, Tiger's my friend from college, and he's a really nice guy and everything. And I was like, cool, okay. And then he gave me the link to the Spotify song, and I played it, and I was like, oh shit, this is actually really good. Like, this is actually, like, I could legitimately listen to this, and I'd be like, I wouldn't even think anything if I'm driving in my car. I'd be like, fuck, this is like just some new artist or an artist or whatever. And so, but you told us that you kind of got into this groove through college. You kind of got introduced to certain people, and then you realized, oh shit, I want to do something with music. So my question really is, You know how a lot of recording artists or any kind of producer of material in the creative realm, like a lot of them say it's something I want to do my whole life, or they have done it their whole life, and you know that. How much of this would you say is like inherent talent that you need, as opposed to like being around the right people, which is something we've also discussed, is like those 5 people with you are like key. Yeah. And then also just having the work ethic to just push through.
I mean, to be honest, it's so like, I think it all stems from the work ethic, because, the crazy thing, and, this is something that I only realized in the last year, like one of those hard battles where you got to realize and sit down and have life kind of slap you in the face and tell you, dude, you're not going to get this. Like it doesn't happen this way. Like, for me, it was like, it really is something that I've accepted. Like, I'm just going to be doing this for my life. Like, that's just what it's going to be. You realize realistically there's power in deletion, and there's power in moving on to the next thing and finishing something. And like,
what do you mean deletion? Like deletion of
like getting rid of, like, one of the hardest things I found early on being in music was like, I didn't like deleting things. So like, I'd come up with an idea, it wasn't good enough, but I'd be like, oh, I still want to do something with this. And I'd hold on to it, when realistically you just delete that one, move on to the next one. The next one's going to be better. Like, you just keep on going.
Right.
Or like get to a point where you literally finish, like work outwards, finish a song, move on to the next one. You keep on working and you keep on pushing stuff out. It's going to be better. It's just naturally going to get better with that. So like, if you just keep working as well as learning, there's no way it's not going to reach a point where it'll be something. And with music, there's too much anyway. So you're not going to learn all of it. No one's going to learn all of it. No one's ever learned all of it. So for me, it's, I'm really at a point where I'm like, let me pick and choose what I like. Let me figure out how I can ingrain that. Let me figure out how that fits where I make stuff. And let me just keep on working and kind of developing. Like, I'd say I'm just now getting to a point where I'm figuring out what I like to do in my music. Like, I'm just now getting to a place where like, I'm making my music. It's less of me learning and kind of imitating. And I'm really going from,
it's for your own voice,
where my own inspiration is. Yeah.
Nice.
Why not take that work that, you say that maybe is good, but not good enough, and that you say you delete and just move on from? Why not just like archive it, throw it on a hard drive, forget about it for a few years, and then, maybe it collides with something else you do? What's the whole and just,
So I guess, like, there's I like that question, because there's like a clear distinction between like the full on deleting something and the archiving part. Cause I archive a lot. Like, I have a lot of projects. I have a lot of projects on my computer that are just shit that no one will ever hear, ever.
They'll come out posthumously. They'll be like,
exactly. And it's someone will find the hard drive. They'll finish those. But like, like when you get into the projects, there are certain parts of the project where like I'll hold on to an idea and it's like, just delete that. Like, just delete that. It's not for this song. It's not for any song right now. You could archive it, but then you're just going to end up with a giant pile of archived little ideas. And already like, so like for me, the little tiny ideas, like if I've come up with a small kind of piano chord progression or something, and that's not good enough to like turn into a beat, I'm going to delete that progression and just make a new progression until I'm ready to make a full beat with that. And then for me, it's like, I won't ever delete an actual beat. So like, there are points in time where I will be deleting over and over again, and it'll just be like, all right, I didn't come up with anything good. I'm just going to save this project and probably never open it again. And that's how that happens.
How do you get your, because you're talking about how you're making this music and you're kind of choosing what you want to do. How do you get your inspiration? I know everyone has their different go-to places or routines or whatever that they do, but I'm curious, like, what do you use to get creative, keep that fire burning kind of thing?
I think it's kind of crazy because I've been realizing as I go kind of where things sit for me and stand for me and where that inspiration comes from. Like it's been just as much as I've been learning music. It's also been learning. It's like a very introspective, figuring out who you are, what makes you, so that you can then push out that in some kind of artistic, creative way. So like for me, I guess it's a lot of it's been the music I've always listened to. Like I look back at some of the songs that I've always loved now, and I'll be like, damn, like if I could make that sound, or like if I could do that, like I'm realizing like the songs that I've always loved it's kind of the music that I'm trying to make just in my own way now. Like I've always loved Cudi. I was a big Mac Miller guy. Ye is a genius to me. He's crazy, but he's a genius. Yeah, and then like some of the crazy stuff Lil Wayne would do, Wiz Khalifa early on, Big Sean, and like when you think about those artists, I'm more so thinking the beats that those artists use and kind of the vibe that they have, less what they're saying when it comes to rappers, because I know a lot of people stick to what rappers say and everything, and for me it's more so that sound that's been coming out of music for a long time. And then I look back at like the old EDM, old pop stuff that I used to like I've always really liked melodic Skrillex type stuff. I've always really liked dubstep, but at the same time I've liked how those can combine and clash in a way. And, that for me is where I think my sound is. It's really, I'm a black kid from Atlanta who literally grew up listening to hip hop, like grew up listening to T.I., grew up listening to Luda, grew up listening to those Atlanta rappers whose parents are hitting me with all of these old school kind of Motown funk type things. And I grew up and I just really fucking loved hard EDM. So like it really is just that kind of cross between those two. And then I've always really liked melodic stuff. Like I'll go back and listen to some classical music like it's nothing. I think it's funny. It's crazy. This is the example I'll have. Like playing Forza, the racing game, you've got the options of the channels, like music channels you can listen to.
You're the classical one?
Forza, yes, exactly. Forza has this one fire classical channel, bro. And I'll just be driving around in a nice car listening to classical music.
Like 40 miles an hour around the corner, like everyone's just zooming past you. Yeah,
are we talking right classical, now? Like Mozart classical?
Oh, we're talking like Mozart, Beethoven, like symphonies and stuff.
An inside joke or something in the game. It's like, let's put some classical music on here.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I've been playing
sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I've been playing a lot of Rocket League. I know you know that, Clement, and they have an amazing track. They do have really great music, yeah. It really complements the game. Anyways, go ahead.
Rocket League has some fire music.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to ask you though, TIGR, have you ever heard of artists being called out for selling out to, popular, culture? And I was kind of wondered about that because I've heard David Bowie talk about it. I've heard like all the big artists talk about selling out. And I wonder if, because you're making music, and I mean, I don't know what your motivations are. I know that you're passionate about it. Like I can tell that much already, right? And that should be enough. But if you ask, like, for example, I don't know, Henry Cavill, because I saw him say this in an interview once. He's like, so what made you an actor? Like, why did you decide to pursue it? And he was like, for the money. I just want to do it for the money. And it was so brutally honest about it, but it was surprising because most people wouldn't say that. But I think a lot of actors and actresses do pursue it for the money. Yeah. You know? So I was like, have you ever kind of found yourself somehow changing what you were originally going to do because you know it's not going to sell as much?
I mean, it's tough. I haven't found myself in that situation yet, but I think that's more so because there's not enough money in it yet for me to have felt like I've needed to change because I might lose money. Like I'm not losing anything right now, so I'm not too stressed out on that front. But I think for me, I've also had a pretty clear goal of mine, kind of like where I'd want to see this go pinnacle wise, like from day one. Whether or not I reach that is whether or not I reach that, but like I kind of know what I want the ideal to be, and then I also know like whether or not I hit my goal or not, I'm gonna be doing this shit anyway. So like,
nice, yeah.
Right. Whether people appreciate it now, never, or at some point, I don't really care. I enjoy it. I love doing it. If whether or not I'm the one doing what I want to be doing, or if I end up influencing other people to do what I hoped to do, then so be it. Like my goal is to play at Coachella. If I can do that, I'm done. Like I really don't care. Like if I can do that, we're good. Just give me 1 year where that's like something
of our generation.
I'll be happy.
Oh boy. Well, what does the pinnacle look like for you? Like obviously it's important that you're doing something that makes you happy. That's a goal of mine too. I always want to do something that makes me happy because life's too short not to, right? But I mean, we do have goals obviously in life, like playing at Coachella.
You probably know, like, I mean, having that whole athletic background, dude, like I had to accept there was no pro future for me in football.
I did too.
As much as a dude might have wanted that, but like realistically,
people that go through college in America and then like don't actually make it pro.
3?
It must be a large number.
It's like only 3% make it. Something crazy like that.
Shit.
It's very, very competitive nowadays. You gotta look.
It's crazy.
The resources some people have, the competition state by state. Like if you're born in one state, you're at a huge disadvantage if you're in the wrong state. Like if you're born in Texas versus if you're born in Wisconsin, you have a far better shot at making it in football in Texas than in Wisconsin. And
Georgia's one of those states.
I mean, some places
Georgia's one of those states. Because I was going to say my school has had pros popping out like nothing lately, which is crazy. But, I accepted that wasn't happening. And I think, for me, pinnacle wise, like I've always wanted to be the best at what I do. I don't think that's anything to like shirk from or like hide from. I don't necessarily know if I could, but like, doesn't mean I'm not going to try. So, for realistically, pinnacle would be plaques and awards and music recognition, not necessarily because that's what I want, but like, because I know that's what being the best in the industry means. And that's where I want, like, if I'm doing this, that would be my goal. Like, I wouldn't want to shoot for anything less than best. So, that's definitely something I've thought about and looked at and kind of had my eye on, but realistically at this point where I am right now, it's more so just getting as much done as I can and just putting it out there. I think especially with this lockdown, because we're not performing anymore, and that's where going out and performing is actually where the money is. So
right, we have to adapt to the situation. Like, I mean, you can't go out and do things like, I mean, even in my situation, I'm forced to be online and show my face more, show my voice more, which is fine. I mean, it complements what I do. I'm sure it complements what you do too, because I mean, a huge part of the distribution is online, but it's a huge adapting phase we're all going through right now. You have to be able to be mobile.
Yeah, because I was going to say, for me, like, the 110% of the reason I do it is because the feeling I get actually DJing on stage, and like the feeling you get actually DJing and being able to play your own music, is honestly the only comparable feeling to that would be pulling up on a football field, like during a game for me. Like that high to me is it's that comparable kind of feeling where it's like I started DJing and I was like, okay, cool. I'm not going to play football, but I can do this. Like this I can do. And this feels just like that, if not better. So
similar here. Like, I mean, I knew football wasn't in my distant future. I did want to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, but that's long gone. That's long gone. But yeah, I pivoted.
That was gone by the time you got to Pomona.
I mean, the good thing about being a DJ is, I mean, you can pack an arena for that kind of shit. I mean, if Clement and I decided to try and pack an arena for a podcast episode, I don't think it'd go over very well.
At this point, it would fail.
That'd be a pretty crazy podcast.
That'd be wild.
I have a friend who, his name is Lewis House. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a pretty big brand online now. And he started out as a pro footballer. And he did something to his knee and he couldn't play anymore and he was really depressed. But dude, I think there's something about football and the kind of competitiveness that comes with it, that if you can't do that all of a sudden, you just fucking find something else to do. And that, with that work ethic, you can succeed at anything. So it comes back to what you said, TIGR, which is like the work ethic is the most important thing. And I agree with you. I think it was Missy Elliott who did one of her whole albums in one day. She just wrote the whole thing out. Like, I don't know how she did it, but every single
that. Jesus,
just did it in one day. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Cause some artists, they go away for months and months and years, and then you come back with an album. It's not that great, but like, you know, to have that kind of work ethic, man, I mean, how are you going to not succeed?
Yeah. And I mean, their work ethic, like some of these work ethics are insane. And like, just getting to a certain point, like I know, like Lil Baby, probably one of my favorite artists at this point. Dude is crazy. Like the way he describes his work ethic, like first off, he doesn't even entertain a feature at this point unless they send $70,000 with the feature. Like, here's our track, here's $70,000. Can you record on it? And he's like, the way he describes it is he will get that, he will put it in, and in 30 minutes he will have his verse recorded and he will be sending it back. Like he straight up says he will not spend more than an hour and a half on something. Like if he's spending more than an hour and a half on something, it's not good. He needs to go ahead and work on the next thing, because he's at that point where he pops out things like that. So if he's not able to hit it right then, it is what it is. But like he's having people send him that money. He's knocking it out in 30 minutes. On to the next one.
He's a businessman. I mean, that's exactly what I want to do if I was in his position. He's got a hot hand right now in the industry too. I mean, if you got a hot hand in basketball, you keep shooting, right? So I mean, you know, if he's cranking out good music, good verses, good lines, good features, then I mean, I definitely understand where he's coming from. I do the exact same thing.
And I think you're right about that football kind of influence. I don't know. I haven't understood it, but I've definitely seen it kind of in life. Just like I straight up can relate anything to football at some point. Like anything, and you know, not necessarily because it's football, but because when you've got like 50 dudes all that close, like you're gonna have witnessed or experienced some form of something at some point in life, because there's no way you can't.
Yeah. Football's definitely taught me a lot too. You learn a lot of good values in it, especially if you do it when you're young, not just in college or high school. But so I don't know when you started first playing TIGR, but I definitely started when I was like 3rd grade, and then I played nonstop every year through college, and that definitely burned me out and broke me down a bit. But
oh yeah,
you learn so many good morals and values and camaraderie and work ethic, and it's a sport I think everyone should, try at least once. It's very unique in a lot of ways.
So you definitely started before me.
A little bit.
I was a late bloomer on the football. My family was basketball, so like I was playing basketball for a minute, and then I was like, this is not me.
Yeah, different in my family. It's like as soon as I became of age, I was thrusted into it, and I had to play it. I didn't have a choice. That and wrestling. I did not like wrestling, so I ended up.
I can just imagine you doing wrestling. Yeah, but that ring, the wrestling gear that they have on.
Yeah, don't make fun of us. That's a tough sport, man. That is tough.
Oh man, I'm not making fun of it. I'm just. I don't know why it's fun, but yeah.
I have so much respect for wrestling, though. After having done it for a long time, it's
wrestling and fighting.
Yeah, wrestling's a form of fighting.
Yeah, I'm like those two are insane.
Mm-hmm. I think
especially like weight cuts. Did you ever have to do that?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I was doing it backwards though, because my dad was really competitive, and while everyone was cutting weight so that they could my dad was making me put on weight so I'd be in a more.
So you'd be up.
It was good though in a way. Like it was brilliant now that I look back at it, because every time I went back to my weight, I killed everybody. But he'd make me wrestle 10, 15 pounds heavier. I think they would go in 10-pound increments when I was younger though. But like he would make me wrestle 10 pounds heavier. I remember he bribed the guy weighing us one time just to put me in the bracket. And he thought he was crazy. But wrestling guys are heavier than you when you're at that age. It makes you mentally tough, and it makes you a lot stronger. Than when you go back to your actual weight, you're killing everybody. Yeah. It was the best thing you could have done for me, but I was so mad at him back then because I didn't understand it. But it was smart. It's another life lesson I learned. You got to put yourself in situations where you're not comfortable at all. Because it's going to make everything else seem easy. You're going to kill it after that.
Totally. Dude, that was my whole football mentality. Because I you saw me freshman and sophomore year, dude. I was tiny. I was playing freshman year at like 150, 155. And my whole mentality was like, practice, I'm just going to go hit the biggest people on the team. Like, I'm just going to go. If I get a chance to tee off on the largest person on the field, I'm just going to go. I'm going to try. Because if I can survive that one, I'm good. Worst case scenario, they're just going to have to take me off the field.
I feel you on that. I had a huge spurt though in high school. I used to be incredibly small my freshman year in high school. And then between freshman year and the end of my sophomore year, I put on like 70 pounds. I went from like 120, 125 to 190. And I looked in the mirror and I'm like, I'm playing a different position. I got so much bigger very, very quickly. And then my whole mentality was like, I'm just going to go hit people. I'm like, I'm not playing quarterback anymore. Put me in running back, put me in DB. I don't care. I'm just going to go run around and hit people because I can
go hit people. That was me like junior year, because I put on 20 pounds over the summer of junior year, like going into junior year. Oh. And I was like, yes, this is football. Like we got to camp that year, and I was doing the same stuff I was doing, and like having coaches yell at me because I was knocking people over when I just was kind of giving a small shoulder, which at the size I was before was nothing. Start knocking people over, people start yelling at you. I'm like, oh, I can do this now.
Yeah, I think the heaviest I ever got in football was my sophomore year in college. I got to 200 pounds, and I was playing DB. I was playing corner, because that's the only position they would let me play on defense. For some reason, they wouldn't let me play safety, and I kept trying to.
You should have been playing safety.
I should have been playing big. I was 6'1", 200-pound corner, and I felt bad for the receiver because they wanted me to jam him all the time. And I'd jam them in practice, and they'd get so fucking pissed. But I'm like, it's illegal.
Hey, that's why y'all's receivers were so good.
Yeah, our receivers got pretty good, mostly because I kept jamming him in practice every single day.
Because I'm not going to lie, I don't think I ever jammed against y'all, period.
What's a jam? What does that mean?
So, like, in football, like, when you have the receiver, so Clement's not a football guy, not really.
I'm not a football dude.
Problem.
But, like, when you have the receiver and you have the guy that's, like, defending the receiver. So the guy defending the receiver.
Okay, yeah, he's, like, trying to keep people off of them, right? Yeah.
Right, and there's very strict contact rules between the receiver and the defender when they're running down the field to catch the ball. But within the first 5 yards before the ball is in the air, you can hit the receiver. You can literally beat him up. You can just go full MMA. So essentially that's what I did. I just lined up at 6 yards, stepped up and hit him every single time. They get so pissed. You can't do that. You can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you can. Yeah. I have 5 yards to do whatever I want. Then you can have your pushing rule and run down the field. But I got you for 5 yards.
Yeah, those football fields, they seem so big compared to any field I think I've played on in sports in school or college or whatever.
And there's 22 people on the field, though. I mean, you kind of wish the field was a little bit bigger.
So right. It does actually. Right. It gets tight.
It closes down fast. People are flying around, so it's not as much space as you'd like.
Yeah.
We played the British equivalent, which is rugby. And that was also, I mean, it's not as, I don't think it's anywhere near as competitive as American football because, you know, I mean, just look
funny you mentioned that, Clement. It's really funny you mentioned that because we went to nationals in rugby, like what, 3-4 years in a row?
Yeah.
Our rugby team
was fire.
Was better than both our football players.
Combined.
Nice.
It was probably because it was made up of both football teams. Rugby team was literally both football teams.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were enemies on Saturdays, on certain Saturdays, and then boys on others.
It was so weird, but yeah, I think I told you that, Clement. We kind of went to a consortium of colleges. So I went to itzTIGR, and then Pitzer and Pomona shared a football team. Tiger went to Claremont McKenna. They shared.
It's also crazy because Claremont's in between Pitzer and Pomona. Like he had to walk through Claremont to go to practice.
I know, it made no sense. Pomona decided to adapt Pitzer from the other side of the campuses. Nice. The decision-making made no sense there sometimes, but it is what it is.
It's just what happens when you got a lot of power and you don't necessarily have to answer to anybody.
I guess so.
So, okay, I'm wondering about something. In Atlanta right now, what is it like in terms of the protests and the BLM movement, and how's that all kind of played out?
Well, at this point, I feel like it's calmed down for sure. Not as active as it was right at the start, but like even this week, I was driving to work in the morning or afternoon, and there were people on the side of the street with Black Lives Matter signs just out. You know, wasn't a lot of people, and also isn't an area where you'd really expect anything to be going on. So like that was interesting, but like. I'd say right as when things were going down, like especially right after the George Floyd thing, I know the city of Atlanta was kind of flipped upside down for a minute. Like protests, people were out on the streets.
Yeah.
They were out everywhere. And I mean, the beauty of it is like with lockdown, nothing was being disturbed. So like, it really was just a lot of people out. You know, of course, there are always going to be bad seeds that take advantage. So like, there were burnings, like cop car burnings, certain things, like certain crazy, like, you know, social media picture moments going on here and there. Yeah. But for the most part, like, it was just super heavy protesting and like peaceful protesting. And I'll never forget. I went to one that was actually put on by all the kids from the schools in the area that I went to high school, which was cool because I'm from Southeast Atlanta. I went to private school up in like North Atlanta, Buckhead, nice area of Atlanta, because Georgia public schools are a straight mess. Like, if you hear about standardized testing scandals, guarantee you it's Georgia. Like, every single year. So I was going to the school Pace, and I'll never forget, like, the first time I experienced real racism, I was a freshman in high school. I was with older guys from the school, older black guys from the school. We all had decided to go to the grocery store. We're in the grocery store at the corner close by school, and it's after finals. And this grandmother from the school came up to us and told us to leave the grocery store because she was sure we were good kids because of the school we went to, but she didn't want us making a ruckus in her neighborhood. So she kicked us out, which was strange, just awkward. And actually, like, probably 2 weeks after the George Floyd thing, all the kids who are currently in the schools, all in that area, organized a protest, like a peaceful protest, where they'd walk from that same parking lot, shopping center where the grocery store was, straight down to the governor's mansion, which happens to be on that same street.
All right,
so yeah. I pulled up to that, and I don't think I've ever seen that area. And like Brandon will know, like, different schools, especially when they're different schools in a close area and y'all all compete in the same sports kind of thing, generally you don't get along. Like, I've never seen that area so united in anything before. So to see it, of all things, united for that reason was insane to me. And the protests have been cool. And like, for the first time in my life, like, I'm actually hopeful about what's going on in the world. Because I had reached a point where I was just kind of like, dude, we just need total, like, if it weren't for the fact that I can't trust people enough for total anarchy to be a thing, like, it's the only way I feel like this is going to get fixed.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes an extreme to, get to some kind of consensus or get a point across. And sometimes it almost feels like it goes too far, but I mean, that's from a different perspective. I mean, like, the whole George Floyd thing is just taking another step too far. Like, that stuff shouldn't be happening. Like,
I almost forgot the Rayshard Brooks, the dude who got shot in the Wendy's parking. That was in Atlanta. Things popped off on a different level. Like, the week after that, the week after that, it was kind of chaos. And then there was a whole, like, there really was a 24-hour period in Georgia, like in Atlanta, where police just took off. Like, they just straight were like, we're not working today. Which, I mean, take that as you will. Personally, I think we're really seeing the fact that maturity has nothing to do with age in the world today. Because, cops are, what's being said is like, Black Lives Matter. Like, I shouldn't have to, stand up from the rooftop to say my life matters. I shouldn't have to argue with someone who's going to literally agree with me by saying all lives matter. Because like, you can't argue with me over that. And then, like, people who say like blue lives matter, I just don't understand when that became mutually exclusive. Like, blue and black, I never understood that. Like, and also, like, cops should be held to the same standard that doctors, lawyers are held to. Like, at a certain point, you're being told, hey, not necessarily you, but certain people around you need to do their job better. The response can't be, well, I'm going to take off work. Forget you guys.
I thought that they took work off because they were worried about the repercussions, or the government had basically said, the mayor had basically said, look, don't bother. But for it to be that reason.
It was in Atlanta. It was like, it really was out of spite, because it wasn't. It was one of those things where nothing had been planned. Like, all of a sudden, people just kind of caught on to the fact that police scanners were going quiet, like very, very quiet. And for like 24 hours, you couldn't, like, you'd call 911 and you'd get voicemail. Like, it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, even then, like, you know, as wild as that does seem, that nothing crazy happened that night, thankfully. But, you know, it just goes to show how, like, kind of how far this thing does go at points.
Yeah, you mentioned something about the cops being held to the same standard as like doctors and lawyers and things. And I totally fucking agree with you. And it's interesting to see these kinds of things happening over and over and over and over again, and they have only really been addressed recently. And I think one of the major catalysts was obviously everyone was already fucking pissed by the COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
And they were like, I was watching memes and videos and things of people losing their minds by being stuck at home, and they've been made redundant. And then this happens and everyone's just like, all that energy goes straight into that. And that's the catalyst. And it's funny how things happen in history, but I think that really was what was needed. But Jocko Willink, who used to be a Navy SEAL, was talking about how, for them to be able to be deployed, they train the whole year, like all year round. They rack in so many hours of training, and they do it in all these different environments and situations. And he said that the police do, I can't remember how much it was, but every month they do like 15 hours of training, something or less.
Like nothing.
And they don't like nothing. Yeah, exactly. Like nothing. And they don't get, they don't get the basic stuff needed to be able to manage situations like where Rayshard Brooks comes out of this corner, which you know, any logical, like reasonable person watching that would be like, that guy does not deserve to be shot at all. So for it to escalate to that, man, was just fucking crazy. But they just don't have the training, man. I mean, like, imagine if they just said, look, I know you're drunk, and to be honest with you, I get drunk all the time, so I know what it's like. Look, you're not supposed to drive a car. Let's just go. We'll take you to the police station, and then you won't get booked. You'll get sent home. I mean, Jesus, how hard is that?
There are multiple ways to do, like, you know, to handle it, and I think that you're right. Like, it's one of those things where, like, realistically, I think a lot of people kind of gotta let go of the idea that, like, first off, we can't really generalize everything. Like, I feel like a lot of people are getting offended about the fact that they might be attached to a group that's being criticized. And, like, I feel like we've reached a point where, like, and I was thinking this the other day, like, going to maturity, like, I truly realized from, like, the way the world is, and also I've had some wild job experiences since graduation. Maturity is, like, not age at all. Like, at a certain point, people just reach an age where they feel like they no longer have to be told what to do or, like, have to answer to anyone. Like, they figured it out and refuse to be wrong, or, like, don't want to be in the wrong group in any way. And I feel like that's what's going on right now, is, like, you've got people that just don't want to be in the wrong group. Like, and they feel like they're in the wrong group. And instead of being, like, admitting what's going on wrong amongst certain groups, they'd rather be like, because I'm in that group, let's fight, because I'm sure they feel awkward inside, because you know what it feels like when you know you're doing something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, when you know that you're just pushing something further and further, even though you know you should probably stop. It's like that ego-driven thing, and it doesn't feel good. And I know that that's probably, you know, one of the reasons why this is so difficult. But you're right, man. It's maturity. And I think it takes a mature person to be able to say, maybe I'm wrong. Just start with that. Maybe I'm wrong. But, like, you know, this is how I feel. And then it opens up the discussion. But, oh, my God, it's so hard to get people to even make that first concession, you know? Yeah. Yeah. And the other crazy thing is, to me, it's like, how are we not able to admit that when, like, you're going to go watch TV, like, you go watch TV. You watch anything with a cop in it, there's going to be a crooked cop. Like, it's
on TV.
It's it's expected. What 9 out of 10 cop shows right now have a crooked cop angle that it's all about. Like, it's just
that's so true.
It's also good. It's good entertainment too. It's good drama.
It's really good. It does like kind of double the stakes. But the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, they did a snippet of all the cop shows, and it's like everyone's just like, plant the evidence, I'm going to take this guy out no matter what anyone says, he's going down. And you're like, what are we being taught to believe about police if this is what we watch all the time?
Yeah, but it's kind of truth to that too. I mean, we shouldn't picture the police force as being perfect either. I mean, they're humans and they do dumb. Some of them are malicious and some of them are just, do stupid shit. Huge issue though is just the fact that, the police force was heavily militarized in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and has gotten to the point where, they have all these resources and a very unrefined lack of training in certain situations too. And they carry so much pride behind that stupid badge that they forgot that they're people. They stop relating to you. And it becomes a huge issue. Like, even I've had some issues with it too, where I've been pulled over in California for practically no reason, and they'll ask if I have drugs in the car, and I'm like, what?
Dude, what? Yeah, like, I feel like that's a question I've gotten every time I've been pulled over. Which is like, come on now.
It's like, really? Where are you going?
You give someone a badge and a gun and some authority, and like, if they're the wrong kind of person in the first place,
that's all it takes.
You're not going to get some good results.
Yeah, because I was going to say, the school I work at has the coolest cop, period, ever works there. Dude is awesome. Like, one of the greatest people I know. But, at the same time, it doesn't change the fact that, like, unfortunately, just because of the way things are, I get uncomfortable in the fact that he's in uniform at school. Nothing against him as a person or anything like that. It's just, my bad, dude. The uniform makes me uncomfortable. It's not that I can't dissociate. It's just, I know a lot of people abuse the uniform.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reform coming. Yeah. And honestly, all over the place. It doesn't help though that there was a black cop that was saying that, and I think this is in Portland, and he was saying that, it's funny to look at this protesters and the opposition, and 8 out of 10 of them are white, and they don't even know why they're there, but they're just angry. And he's like, if you're complaining about diversity on the police force, get it right first on your side. So it's kind of morphed into something perhaps totally different than what it was initially supposed to be. And it's kind of fucked up how, all these angry people are just kind of using it as an outlet for whatever
so many other things.
And it's messing it up for everyone else.
Because to me, like, it's really simple. It's 3 words that, they mean 3 words. Like, and the crazy thing is, like, if I say Black Lives Matter, I'm not even talking about myself. Like, I'm literally saying my brother's life matters, my dad's life matters, like, my family's life matters, my friends' lives matter. Like, I feel like that shouldn't be something argued about. And the fact that people are arguing and, like, for some reason can always be like, well, the movement, or like, well, all lives matter, or like, all of these different things that kind of pop up, and it's like, you're totally missing the point. Like, let's just keep it very simple, because I don't think anyone can disagree at that point.
There's a lack of empathy coming from a lot of people, and in some ways on both sides too. It's partially why America is so divided politically as a country. No one wants to agree on anything. That's the problem.
That's true. That's so true.
There have been some good things though. I mean, the news media has not been helpful, and they've glossed over some good stuff too. Like, I've seen tons of cases where there's been tons of protesters for BLM, and a line of cops that just decide to take a knee and be empathetic, and it's amazing to see that kind of stuff. And then they start talking, they start shaking hands, and I'm like, don't, because of COVID,
Yeah, no, right? It's like you've got real moments where people are being people that just kind of get glossed over because it's not as entertaining.
Right. And I'm like, this is awesome. We're making progress in some kind of way, but no one wants to talk about it either. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of issues. Like now we want to highlight the good stuff.
The news networks are really quite, I mean, there's some that are better than others, but Fox News, for example, in my opinion, shouldn't even be allowed to be called a news channel.
Oh, they've just been exposed in the last few months. They've been completely exposed in the last few months. It's been tough for them. But then again, like, you look at the media, like I didn't kind of come to this realization, but like 3 companies own most of the major media in the US. Like that's that right there is all you need to be like, oh, we're not getting anything.
Yeah,
from the news outlets, really.
Yeah, between 21st Century Fox and Disney, they own pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So,
Disney own 21st Century Fox now.
Disney owns everything. Disney.
They own their movie kind of portfolio. They don't own their. I think they're
the actual Fox. Yeah.
I actually don't know, man. It's really complicated, but fuck, it's really bad as well.
Yes, Disney owns 21st Century Fox. I believe they own CNN. If I'm correct about that.
Really?
It's ABC.
I'm not sure.
They own ABC.
They own
ABC. CNN is its own separate.
They own the sports
Atlanta thing.
Too.
Yeah, CNN's in Atlanta. We've got that headquarters over here. I don't really know who owns that one.
I think, who is it? Jeff Bezos owns Washington Post now, right?
Yeah, he bought the Washington Post.
Yeah,
but I mean, in some ways, it's just money makers for them. Like, I don't think Disney really cares too much about what the narrative is because they kind of own both sides. They're just trying to make money.
Yeah.
So exactly. I don't know if Jeff Bezos is really pushing opinions on the Washington Post. He's probably just trying to prop it up to make money. But
yeah, maybe you need to buy
just pushing profit margins for the Post.
Yeah, it's the same in the music industry too. Like there's like 5 or 6 like major companies that own everything. Some of them aren't even American.
Atlantic, Interscope, Universal,
UMG.
Those are like the 3 off the top of my head that I can think of, and they pretty much own everything. Because even all of these smaller labels are all of these smaller labels are technically sub labels of these bigger labels.
Yeah, when you go look at a song on iTunes, it'll say the label, and then the label that one's under, and the label that one's under, and the label that one's under. And I'm just like,
go down a list of groups. I'm just like, all right, makes sense.
Well, if you keep going on this route, it's not strange to think that there'll be like one company that owns everything in the end. I mean, like it's consolidation. So
as long as it's not Facebook, we'll be good.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh my God, man.
Yeah, well, monopolies are technically illegal. Unfortunately, the line between what's considered a monopoly nowadays has gotten really blurred.
Yeah.
Because they're doing it in very creative ways where there is competition. Like
they exist.
Yeah, I mean, like Facebook is dominating the social media market, but it has competition, so you can't call
technically it. Technically, it's
right. Like Google is dominating search and the internet and just about everything you can do, but they have competition. Yeah. You can't break them up. Leads to all kinds of problems.
Yeah, my mind is still just blown at Facebook, really. I don't know how that dude got in front of Supreme Court and said, I'll get back to you with my answers. We're investigating. We'll get back to you with this.
That was interesting. What do you call it? Like was it deposition or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
It was a hearing.
That was hard to watch, man. Look, when you have a software or a platform that can be misused the way it was, or is being misused still. I don't know if you know the Cambridge Analytica, documentary on Netflix, but that
one's good,
insane, man. Where you can literally overthrow governments by putting up ad campaigns. That's insane. And they did it more than once. They did it like 5, 6, 7 times or something.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Multiple times. Proven track record.
Yeah, I just find it fascinating how that's the way the world works.
The group the investment group we're affiliated with, Clement, Seraph, that's now Obris.
Yeah.
I believe they had Cambridge Analytica a while back come and they pitched to us too.
Really?
I can't remember what it was specifically, but you could probably talk to James about it. I'm pretty sure there was a gal from Cambridge Analytica that was pitching something to us. And I really didn't quite understand what they did at the time. But now I found out what Bell did. It was,
now.
It was really surreal. I was like, glad I didn't touch that.
At the bracket,
Well, if you'd sold early enough, you would have been pretty much better off. And then you would have.
No, that'd be worse. You made a profit off of their bullshit. Then you'd definitely be in a pickle. So I'm glad I didn't touch the ball.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you sometimes, I guess this is one of the things that you have to be aware of in that kind of, industry, is where you're accepting pitches from these firms and you have absolutely no idea what their real intentions are.
What's going on?
Yeah. Maybe they didn't even know what they were going to do at that time. They were really legitimately just like, hey, we're just a regular, good old.
It's a normal form.
Intelligence company. Fuck, man. The world is pretty complex now. You have to be very good at geopolitics and things and technology to be able to understand what the hell's going on. So that's why Gen X has such a hard time grasping what's really happening in the world today. And they vote for things that kind of divide and kind of, bring the power back to, at least in their minds, the way it was 20, 30 years ago. But it's just not going to happen, man. Like globalization isn't going to stop. No. It's going to get more integrated.
Yeah. And I mean, also crazy thing I've realized is I feel like the history we've gotten is just it's missing a whole lot.
Yeah,
Now that I've stopped and thought about things, it's just dude, history is missing a whole lot. Because only in the last month did I realize the Confederacy only lasted 4 months.
Same.
I did at this point I'm truly come to the conclusion let's just not waste our time with Confederate monuments. If people want to argue over statues to losers, then let them keep it. It didn't even last long enough for us to argue. Stone Mountain, to me, let that thing stand in Georgia, because that is a giant rock that just symbolizes losing.
There's interesting debate on that kind of stuff, the whole tearing down statues and monuments. If you go back to Europe, for example, there's a lot of statues of people that were, terrible people that were dictators, influencers, for terrible things, but they decide not to tear those things down because they believe it teaches a lesson to future generations of, what not to do.
Exactly.
And then the counter argument is, it'll just always create a group of supporters that will worship it. And I'm like,
if you're going to make a statue of someone that should be made an example of, shouldn't you at least put them in chains or something and have them hanging there, I mean, the
issue is we've got the narrative needs to be real when the statues are talked about, but the people that make the statues are generally supporters. Because I'm not gonna lie, the Stone Mountain story to me is it has got to be one of the funniest stories, because it's a giant Confederate monument. But the dude that was doing it, and I'll never forget this, because Stone Mountain's a big tourist attraction for camps and stuff as kids in Georgia, which is super fucked up now that I think about it, because it's where the KKK started. It's a giant Confederate monument. Why is that a giant tourist attraction in Georgia? I don't know. But the dude that actually had blown the mural on the side of the mountain blew himself off the mountain. There isn't anything but karma. That's immediate karma.
He died.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The guy who made the mural on the side of the thing blew himself
off the mountain by accident.
Yeah. Complete accident.
No, I shouldn't laugh because it's kind of like it's a bit, yeah. But that's kind of funny in its own way, I guess. But
it's okay. But
oh my God,
like I can empathize and understand why people would want to, like, take down some of these monuments, edit history a bit. Like, I totally understand
that.
But there, at the same time, like, how are we going to teach a future generation of what happens and what to learn from? Like, how am I going to teach my kids who was a terrible person and what not to do? Like, where's the lesson there if we hide all of it? It's the one thing about tearing down history that I have a hard time with.
I think you're talking about the bigger picture, aren't you? Not just the monuments, but like a lot of kind of things that are being, suggested, which is
kind of history hidden away.
Yeah, just more in general. It doesn't have to be just the monuments, but I mean, there's a lot of that today where, we're going back and we're trying to edit the history book and remove things because we don't want people to acknowledge something ever existed. We want to just move forward. And I'm like, then how do we learn? Like, if you hide history, we're gonna make these mistakes again. How
those monuments, those monuments should literally be the examples. Like, this dude was this. He actually did this, that, and the third.
Right, and we should know that by looking at it.
So, this group of people thought he was this. Like, you get that, and you've problem solved realistically. If that can be communicated.
Right. I'm going to take my kids there one day and I'm like, honey, this is a bad person. He did terrible things.
The guy who's standing like this is a bad person. He's like,
this is why we have the statue. Doesn't he look like an asshole? He was. Okay. So that's
I might get controversial here, but like I feel like a lot of the same things happening along the lines of the two genders and how we're now, being somehow coerced to really treat genders as whatever anyone thinks they should be, and somehow when you bring it back to like biology, you're wrong. If you just say there's two physical genders, male and female, and apparently now it's like there's a whole spectrum of them. And I don't have a problem with people who want to identify as any other designation, but I feel like you can't force someone else to change biology, and a fact. So it's an interesting situation that we're in right now, where we're going super.
I think that comes with the layers, just the inability to. I think we, instead of unpacking things, we're adding things, and it's easier to add that kind of distinction than it is to unpack the weight that we've created through literally our entire history of what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman. Like, cause at a certain point people argue over biology, but then, biology isn't just male, cause the other side of the argument is like, well, male, female isn't just biology anymore. It's a whole other thing, which is, I can't disagree. Like, that's true. They carry weight beyond just the physical now, which is crazy.
I learned about someone, and just to carry on from what you're saying, I learned about a South American boxer, MMA fighter, who decided to become a woman. Had already been fighting, but carried on and actually ended up being entered into tournaments against women she didn't tell the organizers that she was a he before, and then just beat the fuck out of all these women and won all these titles. And I just find that this is the kind of problem that we're facing. We need to be really honest with ourselves about what does it really mean to be born in a man's body, in a woman's body, and what kind of like, you know, limits does that impose on you in this society? You can't just go into a female MMA match and kick the shit out of a woman just because you say you're a woman, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty fucked up.
I think that's a situation where maybe this kind of stuff gets taken too far. Like, I'm pretty libertarian. Like, if you do you, I have no problem.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem.
You want to be a man, you want to be a woman, you want to do men, you want to do women, go for it. I'm fine with it. But, you know, when it gets down to things in society like sports, it does seem to create, you know, some unfair advantages. It takes away from, you know, what makes you a woman, what makes you a man. Like, if you have a man saying that he is now a she and wants to compete in female sports and he's a male athlete in the first place, and this has been debated a lot, and there's a lot of women that are unhappy with it. You're creating a huge disadvantage, and it's really not fair. And in some ways, there are things wrong with, you know, in your example of a man going into MMA saying that he is now a she and then beating the shit out of women. Yeah, there's probably a huge line there that, you know, we're afraid to address because we don't want to, you know, hurt that individual because of their aspirations. But I think that's a situation where you have to step back from looking at it from an individual perspective and start looking at it from a more
the organization
selfless perspective.
Yeah,
like, you're affecting other people now. This has gone beyond you, and now you're affecting other people. So maybe there should be a line.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's hard to talk about that stuff.
It is. Yeah. It's hard for whatever reason. It's hard, and it's tricky, man. It's tricky. But anyway, Tiger, what's next for you? Like, what are your plans for like 20? I know it's so hard to ask this question.
What's next?
Who knows what's gonna look?
Shoot, I mean, I know gotta work on a music video for that 3-song EP with Star. I got a couple of tracks I gotta finish. Two more tracks with the guys in the house that I gotta finish up. Those are pretty cool. One of them is a track called Same Time. Cool little vibe, like guitar kind of hip hop beat, and then kind of goes into a future bass drop at the end of it. And then another one is called Letter. It's my roommate actually. He just had a daughter, so he wrote a track for her. So that'll be a cool one. Gotta work on those, and then gotta get my cousin in here to record. And other than that, dude, it really is just kind of figuring out where the world is going to go. Just kind of waiting for the world to figure itself out. Because, you know, for me, what's next is just going to be keep on knocking out projects, making as much as I can while the world is kind of in limbo. That way I've got stuff ready to go when things pick back up.
Let me ask you this. So, like, with all the work and the effort and the productivity you're putting in, are you mostly focused on doing this as an independent artist and, you know, building your own brand, or is the goal to get on some type of label in the future and have those resources? Like, which direction would you rather go down? Like, what road?
I mean, honestly, I think I'm in the unique position being on the production side of things to where, like, I'm not putting my voice on stuff like that. I'm more so the producer on the track. Realistically, it's not the fact that I'd want to be signed to a label or anything, but for me, I guess the goal would be to have kind of label connections to where if a label has an artist that needs something, they can I'd want to be a person where artists or labels or anything felt like, I'm having a project come up, I want something that he makes on that project. Because at that point, it doesn't matter if I'm signed or not.
Contract.
Yeah. For me, if we can come to a deal, I can give an artist signed to this label this song. I can give an artist signed to this label this song, and basically just kind of shop around music and really be my own individual entity. But, you know, if a label opportunity came along, I doubt I'd pass it up. if it was the right opportunity.
Right.
So, for me at this point, it really is just a matter of assessing whatever comes when it comes and going forward. But for me, I'm kind of operating as if a label won't ever be in the picture. Because that to me will just be a bonus if it ever pops up for a certain period of time or for a contractual period of time or whatever. That'd just be aid in my corner for what I'm trying to do.
It sounds like a good way to go too. Like the whole idea of like sort of contracting out, then you can kind of work with whoever you want, including multiple labels. Came down to that. Gives you more freedom. You're not kind of trapped and bound by any rules necessarily. So it sounds like a good way to go, at least until the right opportunity.
And I mean, as a producer at that point, like realistically, from what I understand of the industry, if a label wants you, like you're pretty much theirs. And I'm not, for me, it's one of those understanding, like if a label wanted me that bad, I feel like I'd be in a pretty good position where I'm at that point, I really am going to weigh my options. Like which one is actually going to look better for me?
A lot of the artists that I've heard that I really liked, like I heard one of their songs and I was like, fuck, this guy's really good. Or this girl's really good. And I look for more of their stuff and I can't find it. And I'm thinking, really? You only released that much stuff? And then I realized, oh my God, they made this person's hit track. They made this person's album with them. And they're like making bucks on the back end. They don't care about the front end so much. They'll do like their album or track, but they won't, focus on that because that's not where their passion is. So yeah, man, I totally agree with you. I think that's probably a lot more of a wholesome, mature. Well, I don't know, man. I mean, I can imagine a lot of people get into the limelight because they want to be in the limelight, for better or worse. But for those people who can work behind the scenes and just like have all the fame and success or whatever, not all the success and the riches, but not necessarily looking for the fame, I think that's a pretty sweet gig right there.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, there's nothing but opportunity. You just got to kind of figure out where it all sits and where you actually want to be in it. And for me, I'm not really stressed. If I can make a living off of music, I'm gonna be a happy human being. So yes, that's really my goal.
That's what it boils down to, right? Just doing something that you makes you happy in life, because you never know how long you're gonna be here. So
that's true.
Gotta enjoy it.
Where can people find you online, TIGR, if they want to listen to your stuff or learn about you?
That's true.
I'm me online. It's itzTIGR, itzTIGR. Literally on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. Just type that in, no spaces. You'll find me there. And then social media, itzTIGR with a Z .music. And that's all the social media right there.
You want to send me some links via email, and then Clement and I, what we can do is we can share some of that, like in the description and the social media as well, and then maybe I'll get some more people looking at it too.
Of course, dude.
Sweet.
Of course.
Nice. Well, cheers, guys. Let's finish it off with some mixed beverages.
Cheers.
Nice to have you on, TIGR. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.